live Q&A. It's always interesting trying to get the camera set up properly. I think we've got it. So today I'll be answering all of your fitness questions, health related questions, workout questions, whatever you might have. Toss it my way and we will discuss it. I know last time we did our live Q&A, I had a call come in and disconnected everything. I think we've got the settings set up perfectly to where we don't have to worry about it this time. And I've also got the desktop set up, so hopefully I can read your comments here. I'll be looking this way and looking this way into the camera. So we can start with diet related questions if y'all would like to discuss the best pre and post workout meals. I know that that's a question that comes up very often, typically in the other live Q&As that I do on Instagram and Facebook. So typically when you're looking at your pre-workout meal, you want to have something that is relatively easy and fast digesting. So with the pre and post-workout meals, they should be low in fat, so less than 5 grams, because fat is going to slow down digestion. You also want to look at the fiber content of your foods and decrease the amount of fiber around times of training. This again is to improve digestibility. And with the low fat, we're looking at high protein and high carbs for before and after training. So a really good pre-workout meal might be something like chicken and white rice, or you could do like quick oats and another lean meat. If you don't have any issues with dairy, maybe something like a Greek yogurt could be good. Post-workout, you want to look to very fast digesting carbs and a faster digesting protein. So if you do protein supplements, a whey protein isolate is fantastic post-workout. This is going to help replenish those energy stores. It's going to go right to repairing the damage that we did in the gym. So of course it's calculated damage when we lift. We create micro tears in the muscle, and your whey protein isolate is going to help quickly get that repair process underway. Now, as far as carbs go, you want something a little bit more simple. So if you do love fruit, post-workout is a really great time to have fruit. It's going to help replenish those glycogen stores relatively quickly. Otherwise, look to something again like white rice. You can do your quick oats. You can do like a winter squash, a sweet potato. Oh, and potatoes and sweet potatoes are great before and after training too. So don't think that you have to have, just white rice. And typically I tend to opt for white rice because it is a lot easier to digest, and we're pairing it with a protein. So we don't have to worry about the glycemic index or GI index of the food. So you have your white rice. Brown rice is actually high in phytates, and what this is it's an anti-nutrient. So it can actually leach nutrients from your system. So if you love brown rice, then perhaps have it at a different time during the day, not pre and post workout. So great, we've got some questions coming in, which is fantastic. That means I don't have to do a diatribe. So hello, Body by Zudi. Zudi, what do you suggest with people with hypothyroid in terms of losing weight? Okay, so hypothyroid is a very tricky, tough thing to treat. And of course, if you're under the care of a GP, that can be helpful. But for hypothyroid, you want to look to supplementing with selenium, about 200 micrograms per day. That's going to help thyroid function. Ask your doctor. Iodine may or may not help, but iodine is really important in thyroid function. And also you want to look to avoiding things like L-carnitine, green tea, raw cruciferous vegetables. But the main thing is you want to make sure that your thyroid medication, if you are on medication, that your body is converting to free T3, which is sort of the gas pedal in the body. You can also look to possibly taking glandular, so like a bovine or a pork glandular supplement, which is available over the counter. And you just have to be careful because you don't always know what's in those supplements, but that can be a help too. Magnesium and zinc, vitamin D are some other supplements that can improve thyroid function. So hopefully that helps. Without knowing exactly what's going on, it's tough to say. At A's, Crystal says, what's the best way to reduce overall weight? Should I do cardio alone or should I do HIIT? Okay, this is a great question. Now, if you're looking to reduce overall weight, I think it's very important to specify that you're looking to drop body fat and not necessarily drop muscle. So if this is the case, then actually dropping weight, period, is going to be the result of diet. So you need to be in a caloric deficit. And you can look to certain things like carb cycling or calorie cycling. These can be helpful tools. And what you'll do here is you'll change the amount of carbs you take in with carb cycling. As you increase the carbs, you decrease the fats, and vice versa. So this can be effective. Calorie cycling, this is actually one of my favorite ways to lean down. I tend to eat more on those heavy training days and less on non-training days or on easier training days. And what this does is, and what might be helpful for you, is to look at your caloric intake on a weekly basis rather than looking at it on a daily basis. So you have to be in a caloric deficit to drop weight. And as far as the workouts go, your steady state cardio can be an effective short-term goal. So if you're looking to drop weight in a few weeks, if you have something coming up, adding your steady state cardio can help you burn some additional calories. I've always been a fan of HIIT, but we have to be careful with HIIT and looking to safer forms of HIIT, ones that are easy to recover from, though don't cause a lot of muscle damage, and we can do concurrently with our weight training. So you're looking at concentric based movements, which is push. So these are exercises like your sled pushes, your bike, so your spin bike, elliptical, stairs, that type of thing. And this is going to cause a lot less muscle damage. It's going to get your heart rate up, and HIIT can be done once or twice a week, and you can toss it in with your workouts typically after upper body training or on a separate session. So as far as the training goes, really focus on those big compound movements. You can do supersets. This is going to help keep that heart rate up, but there's no specific workout plan per se for leaning down. It's really that combination. You got that combination of your weights and your diet. And also be very, very patient with this, because depending on how far you have to go, you may not necessarily want to be dieting for a year straight. So think about doing a cut for 8 to 12 weeks, then jumping up to maintenance calories. This is going to give your body a little bit of a reset. It's going to give you a break from dieting. It's going to allow your metabolism to come back up just a little bit, and also can allow your hormones to naturally settle into your new low. And after that maintenance phase, then you go right back into a cutting phase. And so your journey will look a little like this, versus trying to cut all at once and really tanking your metabolism and just getting that general diet fatigue and having those thoughts of scarcity in your mind. Let's see, Kristen asks, how much HIIT per week is too much? Anything over 2 times a week is really too much, because it does tax the central nervous system. Even if you're doing those safer forms of HIIT, they can cause a lot of strain on the body, and it can be really tough to recover from. Let's see. KM Lucchesi asks, "Hi Erin, Karen here. What are your thoughts on rowing for cardio?" Rowing for cardio is fantastic. Especially if you have proper rowing form, which I do not. So make sure that the machine is set to your specifications. So you've got the little straps that go across the top of your foot. Those are set properly, and you know the right order of movements, right? So sometimes if you're doing rowing, if you're used to lifting weights, it's going to be a lot of traps, and you really want to pay attention to not taxing your lower back and really pushing with your legs, and set the damper on a resistance from between 3 to 5. And what this does is it mimics the resistance of water. Anything over that is going to be a little bit too much. Anything under is going to make it a little bit too easy. But rowing is great. It's a total body workout. You just want to make sure that you're stretching your pecs, and that you're not rounding forward all the time, because just like any other repetitive movement, we have to make sure that we're training the opposite movement so that you don't get too bound up on one side. Let's see here. I missed some questions. We're going to go back for a second. Nat Door asks, "What do you recommend to pump up before stepping on stage?" And asked me if I'll consider competing in wellness in the future. Okay, so I'll answer question number 2 first. I am 5 feet 8 inches tall, and that is on the taller side, excuse me, for wellness. And I love the look, but based on how I have been training and my change from figure to bikini, I just, I love the look of bikini, and I think that it suits me now. And in order to do wellness, gosh, I would probably have to take a good 2 years off of competing to try to build up my legs and my glutes. So love the look, but it's really just not for me, not genetically, not for me. So as far as what do I recommend for pumping up before getting on stage, so you have your traditional pump up exercises, typically, and let me know, Nat, if you're looking for foods to pump up or exercises to pump up. So foods to pump up is going to be anything very, very fast digesting, and it depends on what division you're doing, right? So if you want something that's going to make you very, very vascular, then you're looking at something that's sugar based. Otherwise, you really want to watch what you eat, or I think you want to watch what you eat. And this again depends on the division. It depends on your particular metabolism. If you have a very fast metabolism, then you can get away with eating kind of whatever you want on show day. But for me, I typically don't veer away from things that I don't normally eat. So, if I'm not eating jelly beans during my prep, I'm not going to add them on show day. I'll have something something a little bit easier like white rice. And typically on show day, avoiding foods like your rice cakes and other things that can potentially bloat you, because what we want to do is we want to create that look of full muscles without causing bloating or causing the waist to expand. Oh, Patricia says, "Yay, Q&A time. Love these." I do too. Okay, so Nat says, was looking for both food and exercises to pump up for bikini. Okay, so she's 5'8", and she feels the same way about wellness. Cool. So foods to pump up for bikini. Now, I know that a lot of girls do the rice cakes. Again, I'm not a fan. And you have to look. Some people cut water. I don't cut water going into a competition. But if you cut water, you want to make sure that you're not taking in a ton of carbs, because you're really just not going to digest them, because you need water to digest and assimilate those carbs. So typically I'll take my protein on show day, I cut it in half, and with the carbs it'll be just white rice, sweet potatoes, but if you're okay with having some sugar, then something like honey is a good option, and perhaps mixing that with your sweet potato, and that'll give you really nice fullness without going too crazy. And you will see people backstage doing like a full-on bender before they even get on stage or after prejudging. And and not saying that I don't do that, but I will wait till after the night show because I want to look my best all day. I want to feel my best, and to me, presenting well on stage is more important than anything can taste. Big AZ asks, muscle build and fat loss at the same time, is it feasible or an uphill climb? And he's been doing intermittent fasting and training, exercising fasted. Okay. And has heard that muscle building with intermittent fasting is not the most effective way. And you are correct on that, my friend. So intermittent fasting is not great for building muscle. That being said, you can structure your fasts to where you're not training in a fasted state. So you can absolutely recomp. You can recomp. I have several hundred ladies who have done that, and it's really, it comes down to, of course, training. You have to lift heavy, you have to train hard, and you have to eat around maintenance calories. But your nutrient timing is going to be so key here. Think about this. So if I asked you to build a house and I rolled over a wheelbarrow to you with nothing in it and said, okay, start building, what's gonna happen? Nothing. And when you're training fasted and with the goal of recomping or building muscle, you just don't have anything to build. In fact, you're probably going the other way because your time in the gym is actually causing those micro tears in the muscle. It's breaking down. Your body needs those amino acids, and it's gonna get them from probably muscle, because we can't store protein from food. We can store our carbs, we can store our fats, but if you're fasting and you're fasting for long periods of time, typically you're going to deplete those glycogen or your energy stores, and yes, your body will burn fat for fuel, so it'll burn fat, but it's also probably going to burn some muscle. So what I typically recommend, and there are some great studies on this, you'll do 20 to 25 grams of protein about 30 minutes before you train. And that's really all you need. And the studies showed that they actually studied just protein, so 20 to 25 grams of protein, and they also studied 20 to 25 grams of protein plus 20 to 25 grams of carbs. Now, the group that had the carbs didn't see any benefit from those carbs pre-workout, but the protein here is really the main key. And that group was able to train harder, burn more calories during their training session, and their metabolism was boosted for the rest of the day. So the key thing here is that you want to train with just a little bit. Even, if you wake up first thing in the morning and you roll out of bed, you go straight to the gym, have a little bit of protein. Just have about 20 to 25 grams of protein. Try it for a week and see how you feel. Now, with the intermittent fasting, something like your time restricted eating, where you're eating in a 12-hour window, can be effective. You can absolutely recomp when you're doing intermittent fasting with a longer window. The issue, of course, with intermittent fasting comes down to that protein storage and keeping your body from going catabolic. So there are so many health benefits to intermittent fasting. So I will not say that, never do this or always do this, but it's really important to understand based on your goals, you have to eat to support your goals. So hopefully, I know it was a long-winded answer, but hopefully that helps. Alex asks, do you drink coffee? If so, how much is okay, with food or by itself? So Alex, yes, I have an espresso machine, and I absolutely love coffee. And you know, it's great. I typically will use it as a pre-workout tool when I'm close to shows. So I estimate I'm probably at about 400 milligrams per day of coffee, or of caffeine in coffee. And you know, if you're not caffeine sensitive, it can be a really great tool for boosting cognition, boosting metabolism. It's got some great antioxidants. Yes, it can raise your cortisol levels, but again, if you're used to drinking it, it's typically not a problem and you're not caffeine sensitive. And some people are slow metabolizers of caffeine. If that's the case, it takes you a lot longer to break down caffeine. And that means you should probably ease up on the amount of caffeine that you're taking or have it earlier in the morning. So you can have it with food, without food, doesn't really matter. Let's see. Alyssa asks, I'm in my first prep and I've lost muscle during leaning out, which yes, it happens. And she wants to know, how do I stop muscle loss during a prep? And can I build it back and stay lean? Okay, so how do I stop muscle loss during a prep? This, I wouldn't say that it's unavoidable, but anytime you're in a caloric deficit, you're going to lose quite a bit of fat, but you will lose some muscle. So it's going to happen. That being said, you want to be really on top of things with your nutrient timing. So you want to make sure that you're getting a very I'm trying to think of the word. You want to make sure that you're timing out your protein intake and a very even intake of protein throughout the day. And going back to our talk before on intermittent fasting, the body cannot store protein. So you want to make sure that you're constantly giving it protein. Really, really important. Keep that protein as high as you can so you can go, of course, upwards of a gram of protein per pound of body weight. And this is going to increase your metabolism, improve feelings of satiety, and lessen the chance that you're going to lose muscle in your prep. You can also lean on supplements at this point. So your essential amino acids can be really helpful for helping you maintain muscle. And these are the 9 aminos that the body needs in order to make a complete protein. Now, branch chains, a lot of companies will tout the benefits of branch chains, but you just have your 3 branch chains and your body needs 6 more amino acids to make that complete protein. So yes, if you have a branch chain, it's high in leucine. Leucine is of course the key amino responsible for stimulating muscle protein synthesis. But look, you know, if you don't have the rest of the aminos there, you're not going to be able to gain muscle or maintain. So going into the show, you're not going to gain muscle because you are in a caloric deficit. After the show, very, very important to understand that your body is primed to gain muscle or primed to gain fat. And this goes for anybody that's doing a fat loss diet. On the flip side, when you're off of that diet or you're in maintenance or you're on a diet break, try to focus on your protein and your carb intake and keep your fat intake low during these times when you're running a caloric surplus or you're eating more than what you're burning. And the reason for this is, number one, it's going to help with muscle gain. So you have your high carbs. Carbs are fantastic for helping you build muscle. You've got higher or moderate to high protein. This is going to help with recovery. It's going to help with building muscle. And your fats are low. You're in a caloric surplus. You're eating more than what you're burning. You keep those fats low because dietary fat is about, I think it's between 94 and 97% can be converted into body fat. So it's very easy for the body to take that dietary fat and turn it into body fat. And when you're in a caloric surplus, that's of course what's going to happen. So make sure you're eating low fat and eating high carb and moderate to high protein post show, and you will gain muscle like you wouldn't believe. So as long as you're training hard. And that goes for anybody too, contest or fat loss diet. Hey, Chris. Oh, thank you. Okay, Marie, I see. Please help. Let me scroll up and see what you need help for with. Nat, my stage weight for bikini competition this morning, I woke up, I was 127 pounds. So my last time on stage, I was 131, a little bit too fluffy for bikini. I was a little bit too soft. So this time I'm hoping I will be in a good spot. Hello, Layla. Let's see. Layla says that she's sending love from the UK. She's just joined the chat. Her weight has become stagnant and she's very frustrated because she's clean eating and at a caloric deficit and not losing weight. So, Layla, what you might need to do is if you've been at a caloric deficit for quite some time, is you may look to switching to maintenance, and that would be just bumping the calories up by about 200 to 300 calories per day in the form of, I would say, a little bit of protein and some carbs. And you want to kind of get out of that deficit and go to maintenance for a while, because what can typically happen is your metabolism will slow down because you're in that caloric deficit. Okay, that's one option. Now, the other option is to keep going on your caloric deficit and push through. Um, Typically, for me, what I would recommend is option one. Option two, you're pushing through. And I'll explain what happens when you're on a caloric deficit. A lot of times, number one, of course, your metabolism will slow down. So make sure you're getting your steps in. I'm not going to say do cardio. Keep your activity level on the high side, because what happens when we reduce our calories a lot of times is we just stop moving. And when we stop moving throughout the day, our it's called non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT for short. NEAT can be drastically decreased. And with that, on a regular maintenance diet, we typically will burn anywhere between 600 to 1,000 calories per day just doing this, just moving around, just fidgeting, getting up, not being stagnant. And so when we do that caloric deficit, it's very common for our activity level to go way down to compensate for the lack of food. So make sure you bump up your activity level. And then really important to know that when you're in a caloric deficit, you're going to lose weight. You're going to lose body fat. But a lot of times what happens is our cortisol levels will go up. And with that, you're going to start holding water. And a lot of times when you hold water with cortisol, it's in those problem areas. So it may look like fat, but it's not. It's you're holding water, and it's just something that you can either push through, or you can bump up the calories just a little bit for a few weeks, get closer to maintenance, allow your metabolism to come back up. And typically with that increase in carbs, the increase in calories, it will drop your cortisol levels. So you may experience like a 3 to 5 pound, somewhere in that area, drop as soon as you increase your calories. And that's your cortisol levels lowering and your body dropping water. So hopefully that helps. And for anybody who's kind of stalled, you can do one of those two methods: is switch to maintenance, up your calories just a little bit, or continue to push through, but make sure you're keeping your activity levels high. So hopefully that helps. Well, thank you, Jim. He says, thanks for the videos. They're helpful. And S. Dot asks, what app should we use to determine calories with meals? So you have a few different options, actually a ton of options for apps. First and foremost, get a food scale. They're relatively inexpensive on Amazon. And for the tracking, MyFitnessPal, I think that's one of the bigger ones. I like the web version. I'm not really a fan of the app on the phone. For apps on your phone, I really like it. It's called My Net Diary, and it has a lot of listings too, so you can easily find your food and easily log. So those are two really good options, MyFitnessPal and My Net Diary. But get in the habit of weighing your foods out. If you eat meat, you want to weigh that meat after it's cooked. For the rice, you want to weigh it by the gram. For your oats, you want to measure those dry before you cook them. And just knowing the protocol for measuring your foods can make it a lot easier. And once you start tracking your meals, you'll be surprised either by how much you're eating or by how little you're eating. And if you're not tracking, you really have no idea, because we forget. We forget, oh, I had that snack at 2 p.m., and it just sort of slips your mind. At least it does for me. And before I started measuring things, I was very, very much underweighing or underestimating my protein intake and very much overestimating my carb intake. So when you have that information, when you have everything logged, it's quantifiable, and then you can go look at your progress. So you take your progress pictures, keep your measurements, and just check in every week or so, and you can see the changes you're making. Now, if you're not making changes, go back to your food log and figure out if you need to adjust up or adjust down. And with those adjustments, I won't go in small increments. So let's say you want to gain muscle, you're not gaining muscle, you're maybe losing. You're going to bump up your calories by about 300 per day, not by about 100. That change is not enough to really make any significance, because your body will compensate for 100 calories, no problem. Chris asks, how do you strengthen your neck? Let's see. So this is not something that was ever needed for bikini or figure, but I will tell you, I ran track in college, and we would always see the other athletes doing towel exercises, so partner towel exercises. They would lay on a bench and have a towel across the forehead, and someone would be holding the towel, and they would do like chin tucks, and then they would do kind of like the sideways pushes with the towel, and pushing back too. So that that I think is a pretty good way to strengthen your neck. Joel asks, how do you take compliments all the time at the gym from men and women? Well, the way you take a compliment is graciously. You say thank you. And I think it's really awesome when someone approaches you and gives you a compliment. An unsolicited compliment is it's the best compliment that you can get, really. And for me, it's hard to do. I like compliments, but I have a hard time accepting them. I like giving compliments probably more than I like receiving them. But say thank you and know that you're on the right track, because comments from strangers are the best, because they don't want anything in return. They're just telling you that you're doing a great job. So hopefully that helps. David asks, any tips for 40-year-olds? Yes, what kind of tips are you looking for? Understand. Oh, Evan. So understand that as you get older, as we all get older, recovery time is slowed down. So, for 40-year-olds, you're probably going to look to more quality workouts, less quantity, and look to adjusting your training accordingly, that you can still be just as strong. But again, the volume should be probably lowered a little bit, and, think about programming, and, probably don't program 2 tough days back to back. But, honestly, you train the muscles and you can train your body for pretty much anything. And going back to like central nervous system recovery, central nervous system repair, the central nervous system can be trained too. So I would say whatever your goals are, if you are older, understand that it's going to be a bit harder to put on muscle. Yes. Sometimes can be harder to get lean. And I think a big part of this is that when people get older, they typically will lose muscle mass. So the goal should be to gain muscle mass. That's going to improve the metabolism and really gauge your recovery, and understand that you can build up to just about anything, but it's a bit more of a challenge to gain muscle as you get older. Ma Duke 93 is doing the Bikini Bod program. Awesome! Thanks for training with me. And she wants to know what seasonings are okay. She's seasoning with Mrs. Dash, coarse black pepper. And then she asks, when you say veggies, are there any that you would not recommend? Okay, so when you're seasoning and let's say you're looking to, well, we won't say gain muscle, but we'll say like recomping and leaning down, seasonings are calorie free. So feel free to use any kind of spices that you want. Don't be afraid to add salt. So, Mrs. Dash is okay. But if you want to add salt, go for it. Keep in mind, if you're not currently taking in any salt and you start adding salt, that you will hold water. So I would say if you're not doing any sodium now, slowly add it. And then look at your climate. I live in Florida and I sweat a lot. When I work out, I'm outside all the time. I salt my food, and I'm not afraid of sodium. And of course, if you have high blood pressure, maybe you would like to consider not doing so much sodium, but typically there's nothing wrong with salt. So any spices are okay. You're looking at low calorie condiments, ketchup, your mustard, salsa, balsamic vinegar, healthy light dressings. Those are perfect. So, and the Bragg's aminos, those are good too. And as far as vegetables go, feel free to have any kind of vegetables. So typically I count broccoli, cauliflower, leafy greens as a free food. I don't track those at all. I just have as many as I want. Now your foods like carrots, Brussels sprouts, tomatoes, onions, peppers, those can have a little bit more sugar. So if it goes over, I would say about 50 to 75 calories, then you might want to track it. But just generally speaking, vegetables are a free food. So hopefully that helps, and that can make it easier. And I think, a lot of times when we're in a caloric deficit, we eat with our eyes. So if you have the ability to fill up your plate with leafy green vegetables or broccoli or, tomatoes, whatever it might be, then that's going to make you feel a lot more satiated. Dan asks, how long do we stay in maintenance if we can't lose fat? So if you have been dieting for quite a long time, when you go into maintenance, it can be about a 1-to-1 ratio, or even 2-to-1 can be okay. So let's say you've been dieting for 4 months. If you go into maintenance for 2 months, you should be okay. But you'll look to yourself for feedback on that. So when you go into maintenance, understand that when you bump the calories up, that you may go up on the scale just a little bit if you're weighing yourself. And this a lot of times is because you've increased your carbs, and for every gram of carbs you take in, you're going to hold about 3 grams of water. So a lot of that can be water. Some of that can be just your metabolism adjusting. So you're going to go through an adjustment phase of a week to 2 weeks, maybe more, if you've been dieting for quite a while. So you want to give your body that time to to adjust, and then get into maintenance and get comfortable, you know, maintain. That's what maintenance is for. And then towards the end, if you think about dieting and you think, okay, well, I'm ready to go again, then you should be good to get back into a caloric deficit. But if you still feel absolutely burnt out on dieting, then keep maintenance for a little while longer, for a couple weeks more, and then you can reduce your calories and go back into a fat loss diet. So hopefully that helps. Tickle Pickle, hi, says, hello Erin, I started weightlifting a while ago, but I didn't see any results even when I was consistent. Any thoughts? Okay, so my first, let's see, I've got a couple thoughts. One could be that you might not have been eating enough. So if you weren't eating enough or eating the right foods, you got to make sure that your protein intake is relatively high. So you want to be at minimum 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight. And, you know, let's say you're trying to put on muscle, you have to have carbs to gain muscle. Can you gain muscle on keto? Yeah, you can do that. You know, you can gain a little bit of muscle with just protein and no carbs. But look, if you're looking to really optimize or maximize your results, then eating is going to be really key in supporting those goals. So make sure you're eating enough. Now, if you just started weightlifting and you just may not have been training hard enough. So you want to make sure that those last few reps, you're pushing it, and you feel like if someone asked you to do 5 more reps, that you might not be able to do it. So you want to go somewhere close to failure, but you don't want to, you know, push it to failure every single time. So if you're not lifting enough, then you're basically doing work, you know. You're not working out. And so you'll burn calories, but you're not going to gain muscle, because in order to gain muscle, we have to consistently challenge the muscles a little bit more each time. And that's what progressive overload is. So increasing volume over time, increasing intensity, increasing the weights. And so these are some of the key ways where we gain muscle. So if you hopped on a workout program and let's say you did the same exact workouts for 4 weeks, didn't adjust the weights at all, so you didn't try to lift heavier, then no, you're not going to see changes. So doing some troubleshooting can be an effective way to see perhaps where things went wrong. But if you're new to lifting, you should see gains. You should see changes within the first few weeks for sure. Let's see, what was the question we had? Min asks recommendations to solve muscle imbalances aside from a few extra reps on the weak side. So one of my favorite ways to solve muscle imbalances would be to start with that non-dominant side. So you want to start with that weaker side, and let's say you can get 10 reps on that weaker side. Then on the stronger side, you would get 10 reps. Maybe you can do 15 on the stronger side, but you would limit the number of reps on that stronger side and continue this way for quite a while. Training with unilateral training, single arm or single leg, is a really effective way to help with that. And starting with that non-dominant side. Now, if you're training with doing an exercise with both arms or both legs, go lighter on the weight. Focus on your form. Focus on contracting the muscle the same way as you're pushing or pulling. So really developing and strengthening that mind-muscle connection, and just making sure that there's not a disconnect somewhere where the weight starts to get heavier. Certainly your dominant side is going to start taking over. So lighten up, train the non-dominant side first, and when you train that non-dominant side first, really make sure that you are a mirror image. So if I was to, you know, put a line here, that the performance on the left side is exactly the same as the right side. So hopefully that helps. But understand too that this is a process. It's going to take a number of weeks or months in order for you to see changes. Hello, Angela. Good to see you too. Hi, Andrea. So we'll do one more question. And this is how what Lee is at, wondering why my clavicle is so big near my neck. So I used to do a lot of Olympic lifting, and I actually, which one did I break? So one of them is broken. I don't know. I've broken quite a few bones. But yeah, so this is just basically like scar tissue that's built up from hang cleans and front squats. So I wear my scars proudly. Thank you for asking. Okay, one more question. I'm trying to find a good one. They're all good questions. Thank you so much for asking me questions, because otherwise it would just be a soliloquy. So Layla asks the best protein powders that I recommend. She gets confused with how big the market is, especially when going into a store. There are lots of choices. So recommendations for best protein powders. You want something, here are some things that I look for. I love a whey protein isolate, so I typically will seek out a whey protein isolate. This is going to be your faster digesting protein. So hydrolyzed whey protein isolates, they're quick. So if you're looking for something post-workout, that would be the key ingredient that you want. Now, if you're looking for like a meal replacement, then a blend is going to be helpful. So something that is a whey protein isolate fast, then you have whey protein concentrate, which is slower, still pretty fast, and then you have your casein, and that is very slow. So for meal replacement, a blend is going to be a really good option. Now for the products themselves, something that is third-party certified can be really great, because FDA loosely watches over the supplement industry. So having a private third party certify something, Informed Choice is one, Certified Safe for Sport is another one, and just having that stamp of approval on a protein powder or any product that you're going to take can be really, really helpful. So that's something else I look for. And the last thing I look for, you probably won't be able to see it because of the reflection, but and this is obviously not protein, it's water, but on the back of the jug of protein, it's going to have your nutrition facts. And you'll see that, let's say it has 25 grams of protein, you want the weight of the actual scoop to be pretty close to how much protein you're getting. So let's say it's 25 grams of protein and the weight of the serving size is 30 grams. So with that, you know, maybe you've got a little bit of fat in there, you've got a little bit of carbs. Once that's accounted for, you know, the rest of it can be just kind of filler. So if you get a cheap protein powder and it's 15 grams of protein and the serving size is 30 grams, well, you might have 10 grams of stuff that you have no idea what it is. And chances are it's, you know, it's junk. So trying to find something that has simple ingredients. Again, look for the type of protein based on your goal. And as a last thing, you know, look at your third-party certified, and of course the nutrition facts. And if you really want to do a deep dive, you can look into some companies have been in the past guilty of nitrogen spiking. So what they'll do is they'll add amino acids or they will add creatine, and that bumps up the nitrogen level, which will make it test higher in amount of protein. So you just want to make sure that you're getting the protein powder from a reputable source. So that is it for today. We had no interruptions. We had some really great questions. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this Wednesday afternoon. And let's do this again, not next week, but the week after. We'll have another chat. So thank you again so much. Love you guys. Keep up the great work. Keep training hard. Be patient, be persistent, and be consistent, because consistency is key. And that goes for in the gym and with the diet. And if you slip up, get back up and start back over again. So sending you lots of love, and I will see you next time. Thanks again. See ya.